So Leon tells Laura that predicting the stock market is easy. He gives reasons to which stocks would have gone up in the past and which ones he would have invested in. Would have is the operative word here. His argument sounds convincing. He gives examples and it seems plausible. Leon confidently says that if he was an investor, he would have been a millionaire. Sally has an interview. She encounters questions that she did not anticipate. Unsurprisingly, she is unsuccessful. Jack tells Sally that he knew that these questions would have come up and he knew she was unprepared. He states that he knew she would have been unsuccessful. This prediction and identifying the problem, unsurprisingly, comes past tense. These examples are typical of hindsight bias. Case in point, if Leon could predict the stock so accurately, then why does he not invest? If Jack knew Sally was going to be unsuccessful due to lack of preparation, then why did he not give her this information and insight? So let's define hindsight bias. One definition is that, quote, hindsight bias is the common tendency for people to perceive past events as having been more predictable than they actually were, end of quote. Another definition is, quote, the tendency to believe after learning the outcome that we would have foreseen it, end of quote. With hindsight bias, we can predict the lottery, but hardly anyone ever predicts the lottery. In hindsight, we can say, I know those numbers were going to come up. And this is why hindsight bias can be particularly ridiculous. Historical hindsight bias, I would argue, is equally fallacious. We can predict why there was the fall of Rome. We can say the Romans should have done this and should have done that. But this clarity of what the Romans should have done is easy to predict when you're looking through the filter of hindsight. In the moment, you often don't have all variables that result in certain decisions. With hindsight bias, Tom says the Rome fell because of the economic troubles in commercial and agricultural contexts. Even if this premise was true, it may be foolish for him to predict that he would have been able to identify the problem if living in that period and be able to implement the solution effectively. We don't know, and more importantly, nor does Tom. And this is often the issue with hindsight bias, which sometimes combines the two premises of simplifying the problem and simplifying the solution, and then predicting that you made the prediction, or concluding that you made the prediction. Now think of this. Apart from Jim Richards, no one predicted the recession. Yet in hindsight, one can easily define why the recession happened and how it could have been managed. Hindsight bias can often make us feel empowered. We feel good when we convince ourselves that we were right. We knew it. Also, our hindsight bias is invisible. You don't go to the doctor to check your hindsight bias. But hindsight bias can be dangerous. If unchallenged, it can create a domino effect of an all-knowing, all-powerful society after the fact. Now David confidently tells Jess, past tense, I knew your marriage would not last. I knew it was going to end. And Jess pauses and states, it's a shame you did not have the same prophetic abilities with regards to your marriage. Hindsight bias is a combination of I knew it would happen, it had to happen, and I said it would happen. Now you can test your hindsight bias, of course. Write down who will win the next election and write down the reasons why the opposition will lose. Predict 5 upcoming boxing matches and detail why the winner will win and why the loser will lose. If not boxing, do football, or matter of fact, any other sport. Put the answer in an envelope and open it after the event. Hindsight bias is, it's just such an interesting topic, and it's actually a good topic to explore, and we all have it, myself included. I've often been caught up in the I knew it would happen. Sometimes, of course, we can predict things, but more often than not, the world is just so complex, and often we unconsciously change our predictions and beliefs, etc. So, it's always good to analyze yourself and to not get caught up in the hindsight bias trap. So that's my animation video on hindsight bias. If you enjoyed this video and you want to support the content, why not like and subscribe? I repeat, why not like and subscribe? And if you like psychology videos, then why not check out my growing playlist on psychology? Now, with that being said, I sincerely hope you enjoy the content.